The war to end all wars. That was the promise. But what began in 1914 as a regional European crisis became a global catastrophe that dismantled empires, redrew borders, radicalized ideologies, and set the stage for an even deadlier war 2 decades later. World War I was not inevitable, but it was engineered by rivalries, miscalculations, imperial ambitions, and fragile alliances. Today, we uncover not just what happened, but why it happened, who benefited, who suffered, and how its consequences still shape global politics. Europe before 1914, a continent on edge. By 1914, Europe was divided into 2 hostile blocs. The Triple Entente, France, Russia, United Kingdom. The Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy. But alliances were not the cause, they were force multipliers. The real causes, MAIN framework, but beyond textbook. 1. Militarism. Germany and Britain engaged in a naval arms race. Massive armies stood ready. War planning became automatic. Mobilization timetables left little room for diplomacy. 2. Alliances. Secret treaties meant that a local conflict could trigger continental war. 3. Imperialism. Colonial competition in Africa and Asia created tension, particularly between Britain, France, and Germany. 4. Nationalism. The Balkans were called the powder keg of Europe. Slavic nationalism threatened Austria-Hungary. Serbian ambitions were backed by Russia. The spark, assassination and misjudgment. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo by Gavrilo Princip. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia. Backed by Germany's blank check, Vienna issued an ultimatum designed to be rejected. Within weeks, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Russia mobilized. Germany declared war on Russia and France invaded Belgium. Britain declared war on Germany. Europe sleepwalked into war, but leaders knew the risks. A global war, not a European war. World War I became global. The Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers. Japan joined the Allies. Colonies from Africa, India, Australia, and Canada sent troops. The Western Front. Trench warfare led to stalemate. Battles like the Somme and Verdun caused millions of casualties. The Eastern Front. More fluid but equally devastating. The Middle East. The Ottoman Empire collapsed under Arab revolts and British campaigns. The Untold angle. Colonial soldiers. Over 1 million Indian soldiers fought for Britain. African troops fought in Europe. Yet after the war, promises of self-determination were largely denied. This contradiction would ignite anti-colonial movements later. The entry of the United States. Initially neutral, the U.S. entered in 1917 due to German unrestricted submarine warfare, the Zimmermann telegram proposing a German-Mexican alliance, economic ties to the Allies. President Woodrow Wilson framed the war as a moral crusade. The world must be made safe for democracy. Wilson's 14 points. Wilson's 14 points proposed open diplomacy, freedom of the seas, free trade, arms reduction, colonial fairness. 6 through 13, self-determination in Europe, creation of a general association of nations. Self-determination, but here lies the untold contradiction. Applied to Europe, ignored in Asia and Africa. This selective morality sowed seeds of resentment in colonized societies. The Paris Peace Conference and Vienna 1919. In 1919, leaders met in Paris, not Vienna, though comparisons were drawn to the earlier Congress of Vienna 1815. The Big Three dominated. Woodrow Wilson, George Clemenceau, David Lloyd George. The Treaty of Versailles 1919. Germany lost territory. Military restrictions imposed. War Guilt Clause, Article 231. Heavy reparations. Germany was humiliated but not destroyed, a dangerous middle ground. The collapse of empires. 4 empires fell. German, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman, Russian. New states were created, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, but many were unstable multi-ethnic states. B. The League of Nations. League of Nations. Wilson's dream became reality in 1920. Its purpose: prevent war, promote collective security, encourage diplomacy. But it suffered fatal flaws. The U.S. never joined, no military power, major powers ignored it. When Japan invaded Manchuria in 1931 and Italy invaded Ethiopia in 1935, the League failed. FAT. Global consequences and long-term impacts. Rise of extremism. Germany's humiliation fueled Adolf Hitler. 2. Bolshevik Revolution. Russia exited war in 1917, leading to Soviet Union formation. 3. Middle Eastern stability. Artificial borders under Sykes-Picot Agreement created lasting conflict. 4. Collapse of liberal idealism. Wilson's vision failed domestically. U.S. Senate rejected the League. The Second World War. World War I did not end war. It institutionalized unresolved tensions. The war that never ended. World War I was not simply a conflict between alliances. It was a war of empires, a war of industrial destruction, a war that globalized violence, a war that destabilized liberal internationalism. Its legacy: fragile states, nationalist movements, geopolitical rivalries, a failed experiment in collective security, and in many ways the international system we know today: the United Nations, self-determination debates, Middle Eastern crises, European integration, all trace back to 1919.
The guns fell silent in 1918, but the peace that followed was louder.